I have been dabbling on and off with watercolor, and matter of fact, I was working with the VA. I just recently retired with working with the homeless, and I started a therapeutic water water art class, and immediately before you could get started, they would say how they couldn't draw or do different things. So it was just to help them to understand that at least give it a try. And a lot of people after we finished the class were able really enjoyed it, liked it a lot. And but initially some of them just tore up the paper, were so frustrated, wasn't even willing to give themselves a try. And so I realized that you had to really start off with something that was like abstract, something that just it wasn't something that they needed to even try to make a figure. And I did, like you were saying, I would help them as far as tracing, making a copy of it, helping them get success from the experience.
Oh, well, I think most of us can relate to that. Uh, what would you like to get out of this class, these successions?
I would like to become better at doing the watercolor myself. One of the things that was helpful to the students, I would show them my work as well. And my work wasn't that much better than their work, so that they felt comfortable that, okay, if I'm willing to show mine and accept that I'm still in the process of growing, then it wasn't about us trying to be critical. It was just, or even in some cases, people took constructive as criticism. So it was mainly trying to enjoy the process for yourself and to see whether whether you can set your own goals and grow yourself, just to give it a try.
I wrote down, get better and show my progress. Okay, very good. All right, Helen, what do you want to get out of it?
Well, obviously, I want to improve. I started out with acrylics and moved to watercolor about 5-6 years ago, and it's still a struggle for me.
Yeah.
It just is an ongoing struggle for me. I just have not mastered the control of it, and I know you can't control it, but I'd like to control it a little bit better than I do. And
it's kind of like a controlled disaster.
Right.
Control the disaster. Well, I couldn't think of the positive word, but anyway. So to improve particularly is, I think it's fair to say there's quite a few things you can do to control. There's some things you can't. And maybe what we do is really focus on the things that you can control. And,
right.
And see what you're doing now that that could be adjusted, that you could get just a little bit more control. And then the other thing I would suggest is maybe take another look at your expectations. And what I mean by that is what I try to encourage, Helen, is everyone to come up with their own style. And I think I mentioned to you, there's a doctor in my other class, and he's retired, and he started off never watercolor painted before, and he took a class from another artist, and he liked it, and then he took a class. Anyway, long story short, he uses watercolor, but he developed his own style. And instead of trying to get him to be more like my style or a traditional watercolor painter, I encouraged him to use his own. I'll show you. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. I'll show you a painting he did, and I'm hoping I've got it here. We'll find out, huh? Let's see. Just a second. If I can't find it real quick, then no problem.
Well, I am an individualist, so I do like my own style. I think you know that about me.
I can't find it real quick. So it's there. So anyway, I want to encourage you to really, and I'm going to, if your style starts to appear and it works for you, I'm going to encourage you to try that for a little bit and see how that works. And I like it when I see a watercolor, not a traditional, but one that's someone has done it. It's obvious it's their style and you can recognize their style. Okay, that was a long-winded answer.
That was.
Sure.
And I want to be able to say to myself that I am an artist. And I hesitate when I say that to myself.
Say it again.
I want to be able to say to myself, I am an artist with conviction.
Okay, I like that. And I'm going to put a little star next to that one. That's good. That's these little statements, and they come back and haunt you later.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Patty, what would you like?
All the above. No, I'm kidding. In addition, and this is just my own personal issue, but I have a brain injury and I mix left and right, horizontal and vertical, and don't actually see things the way I used to. So I am trying to learn to see the shapes, to see the right proportion, like where the nose really is, you know. And it's funny because last class we took the photo, I traced it, but I moved the nose. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. And the other thing would be to get smoother with my painting, like skin tones, you know, just and you made a good observation. My only paid class I've ever had was your portrait class. And I've only been doing this for 2 years. So I am a baby at all this. I mean, I sketched stick figures my whole life until 2 years ago. So this is a lot to learn for me, but you made an observation, and it's funny because I see it now. You said you do acrylics, which I've only done one acrylic painting, and I paint probably like an acrylic artist. So I am trying to learn to be freer. And like you said, load the brush and just let it, you know, flow over. And that was so amazing for me because I've been detailed. You know, everything I do is very, very detailed. So
what we're focused on for you is back to making sure that you see the shape and be able to paint the shape where it's supposed to be.
Or I'll be Picasso, one or the other.
Okay, so let's get at it. I've got a few things. There's okay. First off, let's talk. Then I'll make this as long as short based on what you want to talk about. And we have a small group, so all of you can have your mics on, unless Patty, you get a little carried away with your background music. What I want you to do is, you know, let's talk and, you know, say, hey, that is kind of an issue for me, or hey, I don't understand this. So let's get real. We can do that with a small group, and that's what I love. This is the size. This is the perfect size. So what do you look at in a reference photo? So the biggest question I have usually is this. I'm going to pull this up on my iPhone so you can see it. So what I look for, hopefully you all see that?
Yes.
There's a good looking guy. Man. Here's an example of taking a photo. This is outdoors. And I took it at a distance with a telephoto lens. And the camera, it was with a camera, not an iPhone. So it wasn't too bad. However, the density is very low. When I say density, it means it does not have a lot of data in pixels. So if I enlarge that, I'm going to lose some. So I got to know that going into it. So I cropped it this way. And so what that looks like, I had all these ready. I'll show you in a minute. is a painting. So let's analyze the painting. One is I cropped it this way, and I wasn't at a stage where I wasn't really thinking about painting him, but I saw this picture and I thought, wow. And what I look for is the wow factor and the interest. The football there in the lower left, by the way, I'm going to make it a little redder. I always put some red in there somewhere. And the denim jacket and the shape and the texture of the denim jacket I want to get. So the big elements are the lines that are going up. One line going up his sleeve to his face, and then that little cup of cupping his hand on his chin, and it's light right there. And then the hair, of course, is so. Anyway, those lines and the lines in the jacket, the top line, all those are centering and focusing in on the face. It's really his expression is what I want to catch. I have a feeling the emotion I want to catch is the guy's bored. Why aren't I playing football? Right? That's the story I want to tell. So the outcome is important. What I want to do with this, obviously, it's not going to be a painting I'm going to give this person. I don't know him. And by the way, you can take public pictures without a permission legally. Now, if they know I'm taking it, I'll ask. Otherwise, legally, if you're in the public, you have no right or no expectations of privacy of someone taking pictures, obviously. We walk down the street, there's probably 20 security videos taking pictures of us right now. So anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So that photo, if I were to use the notonizer, there it is. And are all of you familiar with the notonizer, right?
Yes.
So here's what I want to say about the notonizer, which is interesting. So I'll put that picture in. There's some of the other ones I have. I'm going to show you in a little bit. So I scroll through until I find him, and there he is. There he is. Okay. First one that comes up the notonizer is only black and white, and you can adjust the black and white. And that's just one. I can also, it could be color, but it's the original, okay? I can go to 3. And what I'm looking for is, you can see I'm adjusting this. I'm adjusting it so I have not all black. I just went a little bit. Now I'm adjusting it where I have white. Now there's only 3. I usually look at it at the 4th value. So let's look at it at the 4th value. I'm adjusting it so I'm thinking about how I'm going to paint it. I like a little bit more white. So I'll add some white. And now it looks like that's pretty much the value that I'm going to go for. And it's got the lightest and then the darkest. Now, I can also go add more levels, which in watercolor painting, we have a whole lot more. So I'm going to increase the levels. And you can see, the only thing about this, I don't see those, the lights and darks like before. Now, the other tool, any questions before I go on? So I'm really kind of composing and looking at the values. And I know which is going to be the lightest. And we all know, I think most of you know. Vanetta, you've used notonizer before?
I've seen it before, but I'm trying to check to see if I have it on my phone. I know when we edit, a lot of times we can, go through the different filters, but I'm trying to see where it's at on my phone, or either way, or download it.
Yeah, okay. All right, so in taking a picture, lighting is important. So I'm going to show you another example. There's all my games on there. How cool. It makes me want to stop and play a game. So here's a photo shoot I did. And let's see. There it is. Okay. All right. There's a photo shoot. It's the Russian family. And what I asked them to do, I wasn't really looking for a portrait that they could hang on the wall. I was looking more for a piece of art. So I asked them not to smile. I was amazed at the ability of these girls to look sad. So I cropped it there and look at the expression on the girl in the middle. Very unique. And I like, this is with one light, only one light. And I use a LED light that I can control the Kingston, the K value, which is the, can't think of the K, anyway, I'll think of it. And I can control that light. I also use it on when I'm painting. I can make it look more yellowish or more blue. So I can adjust the tint, but I don't really need to, because if I'm going to adjust it, I'm going to hit edit. And this is on my iPhone. And I'm hoping all of you do this.
Yes.
I can adjust that on my iPhone. All the adjustments I need to do. And all the way to saturation means how much color you want in there. Sometimes I'll push up the saturation so it's lots of color. See that? We're doing what? And that's one way of eye pushing the color. So when I have my reference photo that has that much color in it, guess what the painting looks like? Yeah. So I push that. Now I can tone it down. It's much easier to tone it down than it is to tone it up while you're painting, because of the consistency. So if you have a reference photo that's already like this, I can tone down. So a couple spots I might tone down would be the pink in the shirt. That's too much. It's going to draw attention to her in that pink. So things like that. So any questions so far? Is this helpful?
That's very helpful, because I use my iPhone and I use Notenizer, but I didn't realize I could do all of that just on my iPhone. And I didn't realize that my Notenizer button was on there.
Oh, well,
I was always opening Notenizer. So that's been very helpful.
Vanetta, do you use an iPhone?
Yes.
Okay, so Patty, you use an iPhone?
I do.
Oh, good. I lucked out. Once in a while I've got a non-iPhone, then I have to translate it. Okay, so let me grab a couple of paintings I did. And a couple of value studies. So this is that kid. All right. So this, what I did, it's not intended to be a final or anything like that. But I said to myself, what if I used a Notenizer and painted it with those colors? And so that's what it looks like. So what I like about it is it was a great study for me to really, and this would be good for you, Patty, is to really look at those shapes. Not a lot of detail. It's only shapes. I don't have an eyeball. I don't have an iris. I have a suggestion of an eye. But look at it. It's just I probably won't finish this, but this is one of my, I do this a lot. Just before I could get to that final, I play with it. So there's an idea. Let me show you another one. If I can find it. This one's even cooler. Now, believe it or not, I'm organized, but I don't think I can verify that right now. There it is. No. Well, if I find it, I will show it to you. But another one I did, I just painted, I transferred the image directly from the notenizer and just painted the shapes exactly on the notenizer. And the look that it has, it looks almost like what you would get if you were putting if you're laying down masking like you do for autonomizer, Helen. And I'll find that in a minute. It's pretty cool. Again, it was a study. So here's another one I did. We did that in class, I think, for the demo. Okay. All right, so let me see where we are, make sure I'm making progress. I try to stay organized. So what to look for? First off, be clear what you're planning to do with the painting. What are you going to do with it? If it's for a show, then you're going to look for something that has a wow factor. You're going to look for something that the judge will stop for a minute and say, oh, that's different in a good way. Trust me, there are a lot of different things in there. And there's a difference between a piece of art and a photo replica, I call it. And the difference is if you are trying to come up with your painting to look exactly like the reference photo, it's going to require months and years probably to work on that. Because it's there's so many details, and if you're going to work like that, I always tell everybody go buy, go get a camera or a printer and just print it your picture. You're better off. But I want it to be a piece of art. When someone sees it, I don't want them to say, what a beautiful portrait. The biggest compliment I can get on my portraits, what a nice piece of art.
Mm.
So even though it represents somebody, I want it to be a piece of art. And there is a big difference on the outcomes and how well you plan. If you skip this discussion we're having and you skip the value analysis, you skip all of these things to plan it, the outcome of your painting will reflect that. There are people who can do it, but those generally are people who have done it for years and years. So in their heads, they do the planning. But you and I, we need to do the planning. So here's the top reasons that I see poor reference photos. It's how the painting or the reference photo is composed. Example being, you've all seen it, where people will let's say, and what they do is there's the painting, and here's the person right in the middle. To me, that's a photograph, which it's typically see. It's got to be something interesting. And one thing we have at our disposal as artists, we have the ability to control what the viewer sees. We can choose that in the story it tells. So I can do the same thing. And maybe what I'll do is I'll put that person up here. And maybe just something to balance it over here. I don't know, whatever. But look at that shape. That shape is more interesting than this. And now forget the X's I put in there. That's more interesting. So we have the ability to make things interesting, and we should do that. Question?
I have a question. I did pick up a picture of myself on the as you had mentioned, but what I don't understand is, and I see the different shapes, but then how do I know what color to put when I'm actually doing the watercolor?
Oh, well, you don't use that for your reference photo.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So you really have two images.
Now,
Is that what you're saying?
let me look again. I did that, and I'll show you how I did it. If I can, I don't know why I had it set out last night. So,
Okay.
Blame it on the dogs.
oh man, good point. Thank you. I forgot I could blame it on them.
I used to say blame it on the kids, but they're grown and gone.
It's so important. I'm going to look real quick in my matting room. See if I left it in there. Yep, right where I put it. Okay. I traced from the notinizer.
Okay.
I traced it, and then I signed colors.
Okay.
So that's directly from the notinizer. Of course, you have to use your own ideas, but I thought that was kind of cool. It was a great value study. Again, what I like about me doing this, it reinforced in my head something I knew, but I keep forgetting, is if I just get those shapes right. Those are the shapes the notinizer is saying. If I can get those shapes right, and if I can get the values right. Let's not make that nose dark. It's important. It's lighter there on the bottom. That hand cup around his chin is important. Those are important shapes. So when I go to paint that, it does make a difference in how you paint it. And you can do this if you want. You can take the notinizer, trace it, and sign your own colors. This was the 4 value off the notinizer. I don't think it's cheating, only because it's not very easy actually to do. So anybody wants to try it, but this is what I did. So I got a big kick out of it. And but you can take the notinizer and you can paint directly from it. Any comments or ideas?
That's
Now,
very.
I think that was the question you were asking.
Yes.
So I can take that and you can print it, and we'll talk a little bit later of how to take a photo and then get it onto your paper, okay, or on your watercolor paper. Okay.
Ron, I do that every time I do a notinizer study and do it that way. And I also have a program where I can bring it into that program and print it on 8.5 by 11 paper, but make it bigger, like a 22 by 15 or 15 or 11 by 15. And it prints out on multiple sheets, and you can tape them together so that you've got the actual size. That's very helpful too.
Have you noticed the difference of now noticing shapes and values when you do
Oh,
that?
absolutely. Absolutely. I only paint shapes now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Wow. Man, I didn't have to struggle this whole class to make that point. So the other thing is natural lighting, and what lighting you might use. So this is a single light, and I'll show you. I did some with, let's see if I have it on here, with 2 lights. Yeah. So there's that, but there's a light on the top left, and then there's a light on the right. I got kicked out. Look at the expression on this kid. And then this one. She's a character. So this was, now, I like that lighting, And it all kind of depends on what you want to do with it. The strong shadow can be sometimes the uniqueness that the judge, if you're doing it for a show. Yeah, if I were to do this and this group asked me to do a portrait for them, I would soften those shadows. That's way too much. But for shows, it's like, that's drama. I mean, that's saying something. And then anything with unusual expressions. So anyway, so the lighting, what the lighting does is that it picks up the contours. And a lot of people will take a picture, and half the time it's a picture that their daughter gave them of their granddaughter or something like that. And it's very flat. There are very little shades and contours in it and no shadows. So what happens is when you go to paint that, it looks flat. Well, that's because the photo is flat. So if you can take a good picture, look at that. That would be, I mean, that's important. So the lighting is critical. So the ideal lighting is, if you're doing it for a commission, I would use the Rembrandt lighting, which would be one strong light on one side that throws a little shadow on the left here, and then a soft light on the left side to pick up some highlights. That would be the Rembrandt, full Rembrandt lighting. So if you don't plan this out, you're not going to have a good painting, because you're not going to pick up all the contours and shapes. And by the way, we paint shapes. So if I just had her in front with a flash on, that would be all flat. There would be, all I'd be painting is a thing under a nose, a couple eyeballs, and a line for the lip. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit. And I don't exaggerate. So the other thing, as we talked about, is using your software for cropping. So let's try that, and we'll show you how to crop with your iPhone. So let's take this one. And I'm going to edit it. Okay, good. You can see that in features. And then there's all the way there down at the bottom, you see that little crop sign, two arrows. That you could either turn it or you can crop it. So now I have the crop, and now I can, let's say I want to do one of her. So now I have her cropped. So that's with the iPhone. So there's quite a bit you can do with that. Then I can go back to my, I can increase the saturation if I want. Just go over to, there's noise reduction. There's more definition I can put on there. It makes it clear. I don't like that watercolor. Also, the sharpness of it can be adjusted. If you want more details, if you have to have one. The tint, whether you want it to look more pink or more yellow, you can adjust it. And there's the warmth, the overall warmth, the same thing. The vibrance, there we go, or saturation. So there's a saturation when I push it. So all that is done. Now, the problem I have with that is there's way too many arms and hands in this picture. And by the way, we all know that if you paint a hand, you better be right. Can't get away with it without it being right. So anyway, any questions so far as we move along?
So for a show, you would probably do more saturation. Am I correct?
Yeah. Depends on what I wanted.
Okay.
My style is more color. I like color. So I'll beef it up, and I'll even shift them a little bit. I might If they're in the sunlight, I might add more of a yellowish tint. A lot of people don't like it. They say, well, it's too much red or something. And I said, well, I'm not really doing it for a portrait, for someone to show on their ID card. It's more of an interpretation. So the way we can interpret in portraits, so we can interpret color, we can interpret shapes and emphasis of those, and also how we crop it. And again, I want to remind all of us, we are in control of what the viewer sees. When they see it, we've selected that. And what a judge will say, and I've heard him say it, why did you compose it or crop it that way? And because if you just left it the traditional way, it's like the landscape. You see the traditional vase and flowers sitting in the middle on the table, right in the middle. There's 3 million of them, just Google them. So if I've seen some beautiful ones. I painted a couple beautiful ones, believe it or not, for a class, and the judge won't select it. I mean, there's nothing unique or interesting about it. What am I trying to say with that? Oh, I have a vase of flowers. Well, great. I think sometimes we want to prove we can do it, but it's not going to make a show. So that was the short answer, Patty. Don't ever have a long answer. Don't ever. We'd be here all day. Okay. Camera equipment. I use primarily an iPhone. I also have an SLR camera. And if you have an SLR camera, probably you know how to use it. So I'm not going to go into that because you have lots of settings, and most people who have an SLR know how to use it. The only problem I've had with people using SLR, it comes with a SD card, memory card that comes out, and that card has the picture. Okay, now here's what's funny is the number of people who don't know how to take that, put it in their computer, and find the file. I know that's silly. Even I had lunch with a photographer last week. It's when he's new to photography. I always have trouble finding the files. Yeah, but I may exaggerate that. But the number one problem that they're all number one problems. But one of the problems that artists have is organizing their files and their prints. They don't organize them. They don't put them in files. If I had a file cabinet and I just threw a bunch of papers into my file cabinet, you think I could find it? Well, don't look over here on the right. That's where I have all the stuff ready for today. It's not. Wait, we're not talking about that. So on your computer, set up a file where you can find it. Put it on your desktop, a file that says reference photos, and then put files inside there. Photos of, I have a file just for Marina. It's called Marina and the Kids. All those pictures are in there, so I can find them. So when I'm playing with them and I'm manipulating them, I can find them. And I hope all of you are able to find them, but I just found that I just wasn't ready for that. So that's why I wanted to mention it. So if you use an SLR, you probably know, which is a single lens reflex. You have all kinds of lenses and cool stuff, and you have viewfinders, the new ones. The viewfinders come out and they go up and down, all kinds of cool stuff. I have one, and I use it. I have a little studio set up downstairs in my media room for what I did, like for the poses with Marina and the Kids, and with the lighting. You don't need that, as long as the lighting's right. But I do find on portraits, if you have a dark room with one window, works really good. And you set that person so they're next to the window. So what that would look like is that, so you got, I think I mentioned this in an earlier class, I don't know. So here I am, I've got the window here. And so there's maybe the corner of the room. Oh, that's pretty good, huh? Anyway, I have the person, whether they're sitting or standing, if they're here, the light is going to come in, and this light is, because it's from outdoors, it's diffused. It's not like putting a light bulb in their face. It's very diffused, so the shadows will be soft. Now, if you want a sharp edge on your shadows, I'll show you in just a second. So this light is coming in. So if their nose is like that, okay, so that's all going to be dark over here. All this, right? It's going to be darker on that side. And usually it's just enough light to lighten the room, so it's not perfectly dark here. But so that window is slightly in front of them. It's not behind them or side of them. It's kind of coming at this direction toward them at an angle. That's really an ideal setting. Now, if you want a very dark shadow, and so you can have a single light bulb, a bright one, and that light is very sharp, because if it is not a diffused bulb, but one of those clear bulbs, it's going to be extremely sharp. And the edges of this are going to be very tight on the shadows. You will not have shadows that are diffused. And that's another technique you might want to use, and I've used it a few times to really create some drama. So that's a use of lighting. This would be in a dark room, only this light, and it's very, very dramatic. So that's ways of coming up with some uniqueness in putting together your reference. Next thing is I want to talk about making sure that you have your iPhone set up to take pictures properly. This will be, just ask me if you want more information. I'm just going to give you the basics, because you probably already know this, but if you don't. So I go to settings. Hold on, let me go to settings. So there is settings on my iPhone. You see it right there. Click that. Settings go up. Go down to where you get to camera. You have it there. Go with me. Oh, I missed it. I'm looking for camera. There's camera, usually in like the second or third grouping. So click camera, and there's all your formats. And there's your video format if you take video. And by the way, you have all types of opportunities for video. I have it at 1080. My phone will take 4K video. It won't take 4K unless I set it to that. It takes up a lot of memory, but if you want to do a video with high quality, you can go at 4K at 60, high efficiency. The only issue with high efficiency is there's a lot of software who won't read high efficiency photos or videos. Okay, so let's go down. If you're doing a video, by the way, make sure your sound is on. I have to remind some people about that. And then you go down to composition. If you want to put a grid on, what it has is a grid that might help you if you're wanting to do the 1/3. If you add the grid, so when I take a picture, can you break it now? See the grid lines?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want, you can maybe say, I want to put the attention on this grid line right here at the top left. So you use a grid line, and that's the 333 composition that you always hear about. I think they call it 3x3, where you always try to put something on the vector of one of those vectors, the third vectors, the top one, right one, left one, or bottom one. You put something of interest there. That's called the three S's, I believe. Anyway, back to camera. I don't know. Y'all already knew that, didn't you?
Yes.
I did not know that one.
Yeah, sometimes that comes in handy. So then we'll go down to the, here we go, where is it? Oh, look, see where it all the way down says Smart HDR?
Yes.
And what it does some blending. I want you to play with that because sometimes that's good and sometimes it's bad. It's mostly good. Here it is without it. You probably can't, I'd have to be outside. But what it does, it has the blending a little bit of the colors if they're off. And what it does is it goes for a high definition. And you can always turn that on or off right here also. But if you want it to be default, then you would select that. So I'm going to leave it on as default. One other thing I want to show you here, let's see if I can find it. No, I can't find it right now. Scene detection. Here it is. Okay, in the photos section, this is the obvious, but I've had a number of people say, I'm running out of storage, so show me your phone. I said, well, you got some iCloud storage, why don't you use it there? Well, how do you do that? But put them on, download them on your iCloud, and it's available on any of your Mac devices. Let's see, I'm trying to find,
Ron, what model iPhone do you have?
oh, this is a 12, I believe. It's 12, I think. It's not the one that's got 3 lenses. You can go this is not the S version. It's just the basic one. And I got to borrow someone. Anyway, he was there. I said, "You mind if I take a picture with it?" It's the new 13 with the 3 lenses, and the lens quality on that is phenomenal. He has some amazing cameras, and he would rather use iPhone for most of his pictures now because right there in his pocket. So anyway, I seldom use my SLR. All right, so that covers that. What I was looking for is when you take the pictures, you have an opportunity to save those as an HEIC, which is a high definition. Only Mac products can read it generally. There are more and more, but it's the HEI setting, so the photos are stored as HEIC, which means they're very hard to transfer back and forth. They are high quality, not a highest quality you'll even notice, but they're a little bit. And it's just the little gimmick Mac came out with. I've never used the HEIC setting. Okay, moving on. We got a lot to cover in no time. There we go. Okay. Here's the other thing I want to show you. Is when you have a photograph and you have it on your computer. So let me open up a picture. See if I've got one here on there. I'll open one. Oh, there we go. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so I have it open. So I'm going to close it. So I found out which one it is. But right there, it's called on a subject. You see that where I've highlighted? I right click on there. And then I go down to properties. And it's going to show me the size. That photograph is 322 kilobytes. That's a pretty decent quality. You can go, you'll have some that'll go up to 200, 300, etc. But if I click on details, by the way, if I want to change the title file, I can do that. If I go to details, look what I have down here. I have the dimension of that photo. I have the width in pixels. I have the height in pixels. I have the horizontal and vertical resolution, 96, and I have the bit depth. Okay, why that's important, it tells you the quality of the photo, your reference photo you're using. Also, if you're taking a photo to send to somebody, like entering a show, and they'll ask for it needs to be a minimum of 1400 by 1400 or something like that, they'll say, pixels. You can go here and see whether or not your picture that you're sending, and if it doesn't, you go to a program for resizing your photograph. So you all knew that, right?
No,
I did not.
I did not.
Right click on that, right click, and all that comes up on the photograph in your
Yeah.
file.
Thank you.
Now,
That's in File Explorer or File Manager.
that's Explorer.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, what I can do with that, there's one program, we talked about Notenizer. There's another program I use because it's cheap. When I say cheap, it's free. IMG Online. And so I've opened up, here are all the things I can do with that photograph I just saw. I can resize it to fit a show I'm putting it in. So I can click the resize, and all I have to do is choose the file. Now it's back to, remember how important it is to know how to find it? I have to go find it. It's on my, my thumb drive, which I named specials so I wouldn't lose it. There it is, scan disk. And I'm looking for her name on a subject. There it is. I open it. Okay. And so I can adjust the width pixels right here. And if it's asking me for 2400 minimum, I could put 2400. I keep the aspect ratio. And I don't hit continue. That's a hack. All I do is hit OK. And I can open the process image. I shouldn't be telling any difference. But what it'll be is resized. And it.
Right. Did we lose Ron?
I That's what I was wondering. He's still there, but Ron, we've lost your volume if you're talking.
I hear him.
Looks like we've lost him altogether. I'm sure he's signing back in.
Yeah, there he is.
Ron, we're not hearing you.
He's talking. You can do a chat. Chat.
All right, I'm back.
Yay.
Didn't take that long to reboot it. It's amazing. Now, where was I before I was really erupted? Oh, I showed you resizing. Okay. I'm not going to show you the other way, but in that same software, that same site, imgonline.com, I can resize it. I can also posterize it, which gives it a look like a notonizer. And there's a bunch of other filters. If you want to play around with different kinds of filters and looks of your reference photo, it's pretty cool. So let me open up my agenda. So the next part, do all of you have a reference photo that you're going to use?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, let's hold them up. Let's take a look at them and see if we can talk about those a little bit. Who's first?
I can go. There you go. Go ahead, Helen.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
You've seen this one before, Ron. This is my
hold on.
96-year-old aunt.
Yep. Yes. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about it. Number one, what is the purpose that you're going to use this for when you're done with it?
I'm going to give it to the family.
Okay. So we want it to be realistic.
Right.
That's something they'd be proud to put on the wall.
Right.
So one of the things you could try, now, where do you store this? Is it on your iPhone or somewhere? Well,
I've got an iPhone, I've got a notenizer of it, and I've set up, I'm very, I depend on my file explorer, so I've got everything in there.
Up on your iPhone, and let's see if we can push the colors a little bit.
So you want me to pull it up, or you want me to send it to you?
No, that's when you, well, yeah, you could do that. You could, can you text it to me?
It'd be easier to email it to you.
Okay. While she's doing that, anybody else want to show theirs? I'll come back to hers after I get it.
I can. don't have it on my phone. I scanned it, but I can
Let me spotlight you.
see.
Yeah, that's really nice. Back that up just a little bit. Okay, so what are your thoughts on that, and how you would go about that?
Well, I really wanted to focus on the shapes and work on my values. I did turn it into a block.
Very good, very good. Well, that definitely shows that your values. So what you have is a lot of hair which is dark, and I would suggest. Now, what are you going to do with this? You're going to give it to them, or you want to enter a show?
My son took the photo, so I don't think I can enter it in a show. So
Okay.
I'll keep it for.
Now, there are some different ways of cropping that. Hold on, just hold that up, will you?
Okay.
So there's some, let me take the spotlight off. Okay. So we can crop that a number of different ways. So let's edit, crop it. Now, if I were going to put it in a show, I love these values here, but I think I would crop it
Wow.
out of there.
Okay. Oh, that's gorgeous.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's much more interesting, and plus you don't have that huge black area up above.
Okay.
And just a touch of that soft flower in front of it. See that?
I do. Thank.
So maybe something like that. I'll send this to you.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
That's what I would consider cropping it.
Okay.
And the other advantage is the eyes are not, the one eye is pretty close to the middle, but the real focus tends to be that shape on the top left area. I don't know if you can, let me see if I can, probably can't. I can do it by cropping. Here, hold on. Okay. See that area right there?
Yes.
That's the point of interest.
Oh.
That corner. Why it's a point of interest is because it's dark compared to everything else. And it's in the top third of your layout. So thus, it would make a really nice composition. So so back to, here's where I'd crop it, something like that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at, see if I got yours. Isn't it technology awesome when it works? Okay, so what is her name, Helen? Oh, your mic's off.
Marie.
Almost was able to read your lips on that. What's her name?
Marie.
Marie. I think it's a lovely, I like the fact that her head's tilted. I think we talked about this before. So the eyes are bright. She's cheerful. So what we want to do is make sure we get the expression. There are a number of ways of cropping that. If I were to put it in a show, I would play with cropping it a lot of different ways, because I can control what the people see. I know that might seem silly to you, but what I've done, that would be a very interesting look right there. And if you really want to make it dramatic, look at that. And so what I'm doing is I'm controlling what the viewer sees. I might even cut out some more of the hair, even that. And then I've got See, the attention is up there in one of the sweet spots on composition on the toward the left, top left.
Mm-hmm.
Now that would be a very interesting, I think, painting to paint. I would love to paint that. And when we do this, let's really use this as an example of how to paint wrinkles. This is a good wrinkle. We won't overdo it with her. And also the teeth, this is just a perfect painting to paint. And that's how I would crop it, Helen.
Okay.
Of course, it's up to you. Let me send that to you.
What a great expression.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
That was on her 96th birthday.
wow.
That's an awesome, okay. Who's next? Well, we know who's next. There's only one more. Okay, Netta? Let me switch this over. Here we go. And there's Vanetta. Okay, what you got, Vanetta? Do you have it on your iPhone or you have a print?
I was thinking a picture of my husband, but I think I'm just rushing around trying to find something. So I need to just give it a little bit more thought on what picture I want to use.
Yeah, okay. That a picture, it may be better than what we see, but it looks like it's pretty washed out. Oh, now there's a tough one to paint. And at the same time, what I would do is, if it's in your iPhone, I would lighten it. Put that back up. I would lighten that. Just hold on, I'm going to take a picture of it. See if I can do anything to show you what I might do with it. It's a typical portrait, so I'm assuming that it would be something you'd want to give someone.
Yes. And he's darker than that, so I don't see, if we lighten him up, then he's not going to look like himself, right?
Let me show you.
Okay.
We're just brainstorming here, just a bunch of brains in this room.
See how I can use.
Is that him?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, he would make a great. I love the beard. Seriously, that's the best part. That's cool. Okay.
If not, I can go with something that is more current, like the picture of him today or something like that.
Hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
So what he's doing is working with the picture so it can.
Oh, I unplugged my iPhone, couldn't understand why it wasn't working. Patty, you didn't need to laugh at that.
I do the same thing.
Okay, good. There we go. Let's see if I can get it to work.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So you're gonna see what he can do.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Good looking guy. I sure wish he had a little beard on there. So there's what you can do. Okay. What we can do is we do want him to represent he's a dark complexion. So what descent are you? African American?
African American. Mm-hmm.
So we don't want to lose the pigment color, but what we do is make it interesting. And I did 21 hat ladies. They're all Black African American. I did huge portraits of them. They're on display here. So what we can do is, so that you can see the detail when you paint, is we can adjust it a little bit lighter. Contrast.
Just for the shape, just for the shapes you're saying?
So we can see those shapes. There we go.
Okay.
Now look at that now. So because before you would have a difficulty painting that,
Right.
couldn't see all those shapes. If you did something like this, then I would, now if you're going to put it up in your house, I would paint it just like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're wanting to do something a little different,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to change a portrait to make it interesting, but you can try to crop it differently. And you can do something like that,
I think that's good.
essence, but it's, now we have to mention the upper right quadrant.
Right.
That open space on the left makes a better composition. Now, this would be something if you're wanting to do just an art piece or something to put in a show. But you still, what you're doing is you're taking out all the other information. You're saying, viewer, I want you to look at his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is. You're telling him, look at this guy's eyes. And he has great eyes to be excellent to paint. But that's an example.
Yeah, I think
What else?
thank you.
Sure. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so any questions to this point?
No.
That's good, because I wouldn't have answered.
I have a question, Ron,
Yeah. Oh, of course.
of course. When you captured his picture, you were able to capture it from email, or how did you capture it into your phone? Did she text it to you,
No,
or did she email it to you?
took a picture off the monitor.
Okay, and you okay,
Yeah,
you cropped it that way. Okay,
The monitor.
okay.
That works good. I mean, the quality is not great, but at least it's good enough for instruction, you know.
Okay.
But I'm amazed though how well it worked though. It's just,
I know. I've done that before, but I didn't know if you had a secret other than
actually,
that.
you mentioned something interesting. I've done that a few times to change the resolution so it has a different look. I'll take a picture of it on a monitor. It has a totally different feel and look to it. And you might want to try that just to play around. I'm always trying to figure out ways to give a portrait more interest, or some way of giving, change it up some way. I'll look and see if I can find that example when I get it. I did it a couple of years ago, but that's one of the times I was playing. Okay, any other questions? Okay, a couple more things I want to run through with you. And then hopefully we may even do some little practice painting today. I'm not sure. I'm kind of always one that likes to paint. All right. A couple other things. In taking reference photos, originality and copyright is important. If you're going to put in a show, most watercolor shows will not allow you to use a reference photo that you did not take. That means you can't use your sister's reference photo. You can't use your husband or wife's reference photo. You personally have to take it. And you can't use one that the copyright has been lifted. I've got a ton of them. I did some black and whites. I went to the Smithsonian Photo Museum. You can find that online. They have a ton of old, in the 20s, photographs. I did a couple paintings of people in the 20s. And anyway, it was really cool. But I can't show that in most shows because I did not take that picture. So just know it ahead of time when you're doing that. And copyright is more than just something legal. It's also an ethical thing. In a recent show, a lady put a painting in. It was really good. And I said, that's really cool. And I said, where'd you get the reference photo? I said, and she said, well, I got an old Life magazine I had. Oh, really? It was a photograph? No, it was a painting. So she made a painting of a painting. and it was good. It was almost as good as what she had, I'm sure. So, however, it was in a show and she placed.
Oh,
And it's a small show, but at that time, that was 3 years ago. I thought that was, I guess it was 3 years ago, but anyway, seemed like yesterday. I won't mention her name. And so legally, the show did not say you could not do that, right? However, ethically, us artists, oh, but most shows now have said you must use original work just because of that. And another thing is to watch when you're taking your pictures, particularly if you're doing digital pictures, and you can adjust this on your iPhone. The word K, I kept trying to think what it stood for, is the Kelvin temperature. I'm going to show you a video here in just a minute. Anyway, a great tool or concept to think about is it applies so much to watercolor painting. The cool areas are blue, right? And the warm areas tend to be the yellow side. You know, the reds and the yellow, cool. And it's the same thing on the temperature of light. A high Kelvin or K, like 9,000 to 10,000 is the highest. That would give it a blue tinge. And where you get that, if you're outside and you're taking your painting and it's overcast, what you're going to get is a blue. Because of the clouds, it's going to be much bluer because the sun's color of yellow is being diffused by the clouds. Somewhat overcast, it goes down a little bit. A little sun overhead, which is actually perfect, is at 5,000 to 6,500 is usually the rule of thumb for the perfect temperature for taking a picture. I'm not saying for adjusting a reference. And all the way down to a flame or a candle, a flame produces, think about this, a flame produces the warmest light. So I always think about that. A flame, well, that's because it's warm. So that would be the K. So that's the spectrum. And why I like it is it goes so well with how we paint. You know, if something is not getting light, well, we're up there in the top, right? If something's getting a lot of light, we tend to go down there on the bottom. So we use the notenizer. We talked about that. Talked about IMG and talked about saturation, brightness, the range of hues. And so what I want you to do is when you have a chance on your iPhone is to play with the saturation and the temperature of a photo. We won't do it now because we don't have time. I gotta, it depends on what your answer is to my question that comes up next. Any questions on that topic?
no.
So
And then
what
we
is
talked
the
about-
ideal?
So here is the little boy. I already showed you how I cropped him. And what I want to do is I want to ask you a question. And the question is this: were any of you able to watch the confab on Sunday?
No.
Any of
I
you?
attended.
You attended?
Yes.
Yes,
No, is only the section about his sketchbook. And the reason is it is a awesome way to go about evaluating values. And I've never done a sketchbook. I've heard about it, but after, so I have my sketchbook ready. I thought I had it, but it's not. It's one of the other ones. But I got a sketchbook that looks like this. It's small, so I can take it with me. And I'm going to try that. And I think it's especially because I'm going to, you know, when I have my time, I need to just be me. And, you know, I know none of you have that. I like to just get a piece of paper and play. So I thought, well, gee, why don't I just capture some of that and keep it? So what I'd like to do is, I'd like to show you a, just that, Ellen, if you don't mind, you care to watch it again?
I would love to watch it again, and look what I put together.
Oh my,
And I did this in a class with Marilyn 4 years ago, this little sketchbook.
yes.
And it has nothing in it because I thought it was a waste of time.
Love it. Dang it, that's cool. Okay, let me get this teed up real quick. All right, we're almost there.
And Suzanne Natsky talked about it this week too, and she gave some tips about what you need to have in it. This is all you need to have in it.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
a water-filled pen brush, some elegant writers, and a little pen.
That's cool. What brand are those pens?
Well, they're all water soluble. The fine point pen is called, it's a Pilot Precise
Yeah.
V5, extra fine, and they're water soluble.
Uh-huh.
And then the others are Elegant Rider by Speedball.
Huh.
And I got them both on Amazon. But Suzanne had recommended these before, and they're perfect for taking a little sketchbook on the road or outside.
That is cool. Hold on a second. I'm going to, can you write that down and send it to me? This the pens that you're, I have the brush
Yes.
go in, but the other ones, I'd like to see that. So what I'm going to do is fast forward.
I'm always creating handmade.
I'm just going to show a little bit of this. There we go. Well, hold on.
And then this camera. So this camera is the one everybody has with them all the time. And if something captures my interest, then I pull one of the two cameras out and take a photograph. Those photographs come back and get uploaded into my computer. And I really never delete them. I bought a computer with extra storage so I could always go back, and we're pushing 60,000 photographs on my desktop computer now. And then I take a look at them and the possibles, and usually it's 3 or 4 out of 100 possibles that I might like to make a painting from. Those get dropped into Photoshop, resized, occasionally messed with a little bit, and then printed out at 4x6. And then from that photograph, I go here. And the sketchbook is the simplification of all the information that a photograph gives. So I'm just going to flip through this. This one happens to be a lot of pen and ink at the beginning. And some are just really quick sketches for memory, not leading to paintings, and some led directly to paintings. I really should paint that bar scene, but never got to it. So this is where I distill my ideas in the sketchbook. And these are small, 3 by 4 inches. Wild turkeys, I'm still working on this design. A commission, which I hardly ever do. Somebody that got to my fishing site before I got there. I live 23 miles straight west of Traverse City, for those of you that know Michigan. And this is an alley in Traverse City. And then a friend of mine on her phone, backlit rather dramatically, at a hotel, believe it or not, in Madison, Wisconsin. We went there to see the traveling Van Gogh exhibit. So this is fairly typical of the way I work from a photographic reference. The photograph is long gone. Seldom do I keep the photograph available when I paint. I paint from this distilled imagery. So I rearrange the shapes, and then I assign one of 5 values to every shape, and then work from this. And then color interpretation is left up to me. Pardon my paperweight, but I'll put the painting that resulted. This one happens to be acrylic on panel, but you'll get the idea. There's the value plan, the sketch, and then there's the painting. So the color interpretation was up to me. So it was early in the morning, hence the backlit trees. A nocturne, which I've been doing quite a few nocturnes lately. So again, this is about 3 by 4 inches. These value plans don't take me very long at all. But they give me enough information that I can work on the painting. And somebody mentioned plein air, Roberta, I think you mentioned plein air. I do paint in plein air. I try to get out once a week. And most of the time, that's in acrylic. So here's the value plan. And then here's the resulting painting, which actually follows the value plan fairly closely. This is acrylic on panel, and that's a popular plein air painting site of mine. So about these days, about half of my work is either mixed water media or acrylic, which is additive, not subtractive like watercolor can be. And I like acrylic for plein air painting because I mess up a lot. And when I mess up, acrylic dries in 3 or 4 minutes, heavy-bodied acrylic. So I can mess up, realize I have the wrong value or the wrong hue or the wrong temperature, and then I can wait 4 or 5 minutes and just repaint it. So this is always helpful. And I don't always paint what you see in the sketchbook. This was today's sketch. And here's a small one. I believe I have that painting available, so I can share the painting. I don't need a lot of information to do the painting. So this is the value plan. It's 3 by 3.5. And then here's the resulting painting. So it was just enough information for me to go after this quarter sheet with transparent watercolor. This, by the way, is watercolor on gessoed paper. You can see the granulation and even totally transparent. Very finely ground pigments will granulate on this surface. So like alizarin will granulate, phthalo blue will granulate, not a great deal. And those colors which naturally granulate like manganese blue will really show the texture of this surface. So I use a 5 value system. White, light, medium, medium dark, and black or very dark. And then I usually try to put my focal area, my center of interest, in the sweet spot of the rule of thirds, and I do fudge that quite a bit. I am not a huge proponent of rules with my own work, but it is helpful to know the rules before you start breaking them. So that's my procedure for most of the work that I do. We'll go back and see if we can find. Here's the value plan. This painting is in the Transparent Watercolor Society of America's annual exhibition. Let's go back to this one. Because I did paint this painting and I think I have it available. I'll check my pile of paintings. Yes. So here's the painting that resulted. And it's blowing out just a little bit up here because of the light source. But you get the idea. And this painting, interior hotel painting, again, transparent watercolor on twice gessoed 1/4 sheet cold press 300 pound. And I'm pretty sure that will be on your materials list. You will let me know if you don't already have that materials list. And if you do, I might like to see it again to make sure that you have everything that you need for the workshop. So that's basically my procedure for working in a representational fashion.
Turn the sound up. Ron, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
I'm thinking about using it in a cell phone commercial.
For your codec.
Anyway, let's back. Okay, reverse. Manson, I think that's how you pronounce tracing paper. I printed Marina on my large printer. I just printed in a fast mode. I didn't need it high quality. And I could do a quick value study that's very fast, but very effective. And on this crimson paper, let's see if I could. Let's see, right? You can see my palette. I can paint right on here.
Oh.
It will not be dark, but you can get it fairly dark.
So is that vellum or is that?
Well, hold on, let me tell you what it is. It's
Oh, okay. I have that.
You too.
nothing too fancy. Acid free too. How about that? Anyway, I could just use that and it almost feels a little bit like, but what I can do is because it's not paper, it dries pretty quick. And I can play with the colors I'm going to use, what mixtures I'm going to use now. And I'll just do this real quick for you. You can take your time to do this. It has similar qualities as, hopefully I don't get my head in the way. some interesting qualities. You can also layer it. And you can use a large brush. Oh, by the way, I'm excited. I got some new brushes. Some new Kalinsky brushes. Sable.
Ooh,
Now,
jealous.
they weren't cheap either, but my finance director, alias wife,
Mhm.
Did she get them for you?
no, not really. She approved them.
So will they have any of those on sale at the Florida Watercolor?
It depends on what. The first ones I bought was at Florida Watercolor Society. It depends on who the vendors will be.
Mhm.
All right, that's what it starts to look like with a piece of white paper in there. And it's actually kind of cool. You can see it starts, you can pretty make out the colors you're using. Now, it's not going to be flat. I suppose you could iron this if you wanted to frame it. But I use it just as a way of testing colors without using paper. This is very cheap paper in comparison to watercolor. That's okay.
Does this work on any tracing paper, or is it specifically on the paper you're using now?
Yeah, this is just tracing paper.
Okay.
I suppose it, why I use it is because you can see the image underneath of it, and you don't have to spend a whole lot of time worrying about, you're just doing it for fun. But I say fun, I'm using
Practice.
it in the context of testing my values. And it does the same qualities, except it just wrinkles. And I don't really care. I'm just going to, now I can add color to that, blend it, say it's still blend. It just has.
I've never seen that done before. That's interesting.
What's that?
I've never seen that done before. That's interesting.
Well, it's good. And then if you ever wonder about, oh, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'll put the dark. This tends to make a little difference. You can see, what I do is here, I'm focused on painting shapes. But look at, it has kind of that pastel-y quality to it. And it's interesting how the colors kind of stay on top. But that's just, if you have some time between, if you have any tracing paper, I encourage you to give it a try. It's kind of fun. The main thing is you're not wasting a whole lot of paper. And if you ever, you can also, what I normally do is I'll do this on a light board and you can really see it then.
Ron, what's the advantage to doing it with the paints over using pencil? And then would you transfer it to your original to make?
Normally doing my playing with values and playing with what colors I'm going to use.
Okay.
So if I use the actual paint, it's now if I write this down and say, because what I like about this is it's very obvious, the colors, and you get a really good idea of what it's going to look like. Now it might be painted properly, but I like, I say to myself, I really like the way that, see that orangey and that rose blended, those opera. I'll say, I like them. I didn't use black there. I used blue for her mascara. Just things like that. You're just picking up data. But the key is it's fast. Pencil, takes a lot of time.
Mhm.
With brush, just a couple strokes. Not like that. Now, I'm not saying I'm lazy. Don't, I know Patty was getting ready to say something like that.
Never.
Well, I like to do things the easiest way. So if that helps
Yeah.
make it easy, then I'm all for it.
I'm for easy. Yeah. Yeah. It has pretty close to similar qualities. I didn't, I didn't know I could paint on tracing paper until I had a piece of scrap. And I said, yeah, I wonder if that I could paint on that. Probably not something I'm going to put in a show. I'll have to look. I have to look one so I can't always see that shape. So I'm kind of playing with what color I've used there. It's got a little violet in there. And there's some UPO qualities to it. Okay, so it gives you an idea of what kind of cool, isn't it?
It is.
Right?
It is.
So it's just a different. And the reason I want to show you, this is the time when you're planning it out. This is the time to play with it. And I didn't know you could use tracing paper or vellum. Probably vellum would work. It's about the same material. But the other thing I noticed is you can lift too off of it. Because the paper kind of sits on there. Not good, doesn't lift great, but for the purpose of what we're doing, it looks fine. See? Okay, any questions? Was that helpful? Isn't that cool?
It is.
That's very helpful.
So that's just done on tracing paper. So if you have any, just lay it down over top of your deal and paint on it. And what you're going to find, the cool factor again is you're not trying to finish piece. Who knows? Maybe it would be a finished piece. Is this really? It's just it helps me. At the same time, I'm doing values. In paper, if I were to do it on paper, it would be a lot longer. You can see how fast this goes on. And I'm not worried too much when testing out some of the colors, what I've used. And, that quinacridone red, magenta with just a touch of blue there is helpful. So that's the kind of stuff I look for. All right, so we got 10 minutes. Let's talk about anything that's open and anything you, before I do that, let me tell you what we're going to do next week. So next week, gotta get my cheat sheet out. So we're going to talk about, again, the, mixing colors and lead up to that. But particularly, first thing we do is talk about ways of transferring our image to our watercolor paper. I use a projector, so have all of you seen that? Donnie, do you want to see how to use a projector? Donnie. You want to see how to use a projector to use to trace your paper portrait?
Yes, or do you want me to just YouTube that? So I'll be up with everybody else if they've already seen it. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, if you don't mind, it only takes a few minutes. I'm just to show you how to set it up.
Okay.
And I might
Okay.
YouTube for it. I've already done. And then we're going to talk a little bit about again, I'd like for you to next week show your reference photo after you have made adjustments on saturation and brightness, okay? And play with that a little bit. I want to see that next week. And then we'll talk about, again, I do want to spend a little time talking about paper selection. And it's my bad that I didn't talk about that with some of my classes. And then after they got their paper going, I said, oh, by the way, that paper doesn't work very good for portraits. And guess what they said?
Mhm.
I don't know. No, they said, now you tell me. So I want to talk a little paper that it's kind of funky, but you may want the funky look. So I always preface all that. So I want to talk a little bit about paper. I'll show you the different surfaces. I'll have them on here. I'll just show you the difference, what happens. And then tracing, we'll talk about how you draw. If you like to draw and you have the time, I encourage you, you like that, draw. I don't have the time. I can draw, but it's just I can do 2 paintings in the time it takes me to do 1 painting if I take the time. I'm just so picky. I have to. And the other thing when drawing on the paper, I don't know about you, but I tend to erase, and sometimes it does make an impact. Even when you use those white clean erasers, it has an impact on the surface of the paper. And then we'll apply all of that and use that paper. Might take a look at what paper options you have, but I would suggest in doing portraits, hot press is what the pros use. However, because it's a smooth surface and you can get the details on it, however, it's very unforgiving, and the way it soaks the paint is very difficult. Here's that word we're going for, control. So hot press is much harder to control. If you go with a cold press, it has a surface. However, it has a stretching on it, material enough that has just a little bit of coating to it that keeps it from going in so fast. Also, the thickness of the paper, anyway, we'll talk about that next week. The thickness of the paper is important. If you go with the 300 pound, it absorbs the paint fast, and you can paint without using a dryer with 300 pound. But if you go down to like 80, I use 80 a lot because I use a stretcher. I have like 5 or 6 paper stretchers, and I can, for what it costs to do one 300 pound, I can do 5 or 6 80 pound. Because they're cheap. I use a stretcher, and I'll show you the stretcher options too. Did I ever show you the stretchers?
No.
No.
Okay. I didn't want you to see it, so I'll have to show it to you now that I mentioned it. Okay, so that's what the plans are, and if we have time, we go into really getting out our palette. I do want to talk a little bit about your palettes and how you use it, and then I want to really hone in on brush strokes if we have time next week. And it is something I keep learning new ways of using the brush. I don't know if you knew, you can put 2 colors in a brush and both colors come out. Very interesting. I'll show you how that's done. It's a very interesting effect. So things like that, few little tricks like that. So we're running out of time. Does anybody have anything you want to bring up or any insults you want to make to this? I mean, any ideas you want to give the instructor?
Hey, Ron, I just sent you a text with an eraser that Suzanne Natsky introduced me to
Well,
for if you have to erase pencil marks on your paper. And it really is very nice. It's messy, but it's very nice.
yeah, I love Suzanne's work. I've talked to her quite a few times. So it's powder in there, or what's inside that cloth?
It's some kind of powder, and that it when you take it out of the box, you kind of massage it a little bit before you use it, and then you rub it over your pencil, and it doesn't smear, and it gets some of it up, so it really works well.
Let me show it to everybody else so we're not stingy. You'll see that?
Alvin.
So it's Alvin and the Chipmunks. No, that's Alvin Professional Drafting Dry Cleaning Pad.
And I think it was $8, $9 on Amazon.
$89.
8 or 9.
Oh,
Thank you, Helen.
yeah. Oh, boy, that's very good. Okay. Well, it's been around since 1950 and born in 1951, so it's got to be good. Great years. Okay. Thank you. That's great. Anybody else have a little jewel you'd like to share? Questions you'd like to ask?
I have something I did that not relating to portraits, but to figures.
Let's see. I love show and tell.
I did a scale and printed it on transparency paper so that I could measure the size of people that I need to put in landscapes.
Oh, smart.
And so you lift it up and put it on your painting and you can see where they are. And then I drew some out so I could place them on the paintings to see. I'm just learning how to do small figures, so they're not great, but the scale was what was important to me, learning to put the right size and proportions.
Right, that's what a lot of people seem to get wrong in their landscape compositions. Well, okay, well, thank you, everybody. And Vanetta, it was a pleasure to meet you. And we're going to have some fun. Get ready. Get your seatbelt on. Here we go.
I'm enjoying it
Ron.
already. It's very good. I mean, I'm enjoying the group too. I mean, I think that so often you don't get a chance to really do the teaching part and that you jump right into the painting and you don't really grow any more than what you already started off with. So I'm really enjoying this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron, I was just about to say I love the format of today.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It really is a very good learning format. And so I appreciate that so much.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. You know what? That was the intent too. That's what's crazy.
Right.
Next week, I'll send you, it's the same link, but I'll send you a reminder again.
And you'll send us the recording?
I will do that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's excellent.
If you want to tell a joke and have it recorded, now's the time. All right.
What did one cricket say to another?
Yeah. So why the chicken?